How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a very strong Fantasy Cup team that I have used in the last 2 days to go up over 400 ELO. Now, my ELO is currently sitting around like 2820s, I believe. I had dropped way down into the lower 2400s running Spice, and I was loving it. I was just absolutely loving the crazy teams I was playing with, but I just kept getting beat over and over and over again. And I was thinking that we're getting kind of close to the end of the season here, and I'm probably not going to be playing that much Catch Cup, so I kind of figured I better try to make another push and get back up to at least a respectable ELO. No offense to anyone who's in the lower 2400s, it is a respectable ELO, but for someone like myself who hits Legend every season, I wanted to hold myself to being a little higher ELO at the end of the season. So that being said, the team consists of a Clefable lead, a Giratina Origin safe switch, and an Escav closer. And what makes this team so good is the Clefable lead, in my opinion, is probably the GOAT of the team. And the reason is Clefable just picks up so many good matchups. It beats basically all of the other fairies. It even has a pretty good matchup against Tapu Fini, and then it's going to crush all of the dragons. Basically every dragon loses to Clefable. And really, the only steel type that has a really super dominant matchup against Clefable is Registeel. Now, if a Berserker is running Iron Head or like a Skizzer, that can be pretty tough, but those are pretty uncommon, and even Iron Head Berserker still takes like half of its health from a Moonblast, so the Clefable can just put in so much work. Escav doesn't really want to see Clefable, to be honest. Things like Sandslash don't have the best Clefable matchup, so you're just going to pick up a ton of positive leads to Clefable, and even if you do see a Registeel lead, you have the Giratina Origin as a safe switch, and that thing puts in so much work as a safe switch. The Shadow Ball coverage and the Shadow Claw can basically force a shield or switch advantage for most things in the meta. There's really no dark types, there's no normal types, so even if they have a fairy, they're going to be taking heavy neutral damage. And then the Escav, just to trust the Escav in the back, is going to be our hard answer to the steel type that we might see on the lead, or if they switch in a steel type, Escav basically with shields can beat every other steel type in this meta. So let's get into the battles. It's going to be a longer video, guys. I'm going to be breaking this down into leads like I oftentimes do with my strong teams, and I believe we start off with the fairy type leads, and then we'll move through like some steel leads. We'll move into some Giratina leads. Really, Giratina, again, was the most common lead I saw, but the first 5 or 6 are going to be other fairies, which, again, Clefable does beat basically all the other fairies, and honestly, the toughest fairy to see probably is going to be another Clefable, especially my Clefable, because my Clefable does have 0 attack. It is a very high-ranked Clefable. I want to say it's like a rank 6, maybe at level 51. I don't remember, to be honest, but usually I do lose CMP, so the way I like to play this out in the mirror is I play out the 1 shield. I do then end up throwing my Meteor Mash on CMP. I usually end up losing it, but this opponent actually caught, which is totally fine. They bring in a Dragon Breath Giratina, probably thinking they could farm down, but Clefable is just so bulky, refusing to die, and the Moonblast does get the last shield. I actually saved the Clefable now for a potential catch later on, and unfortunately, this Giratina has a huge energy lead on my Origin form here, so they're going to take me out, but the nice thing is, I did enough Shadow Claw damage to get them into a range where a Drill Run will now KO them from Escav, because Escav really does not want to see Giratina, so I was honestly perfectly fine that they switched it in there. And they actually have a Haxorus in the back. I saw a lot of Haxorus, but most of them were on the lead, which obviously Haxorus lead gets dominated by this team, but I was running Mega Horn in this battle. I definitely recommend Acid Spray. I just initially didn't want to give up a TM, and I recognize that there's really just no need for Mega Horn because most of the things are out there going to be resisting it. And here, I knew my only win condition was to catch, and I also needed energy to throw at their Clefable because their Clefable had energy. They tried to snipe. I had the Drill Run ready, and I'm going to take out this Clefable. So I don't throw the debuff Drill Run earlier on the Giratina, knowing it wouldn't KO. I make the catch after 6 counters, recognizing 12 turns is how long it'll take them to get to the Claw. I take the game there. Very close game. Very nicely played by the opponent. And in the next battle, you're going to be seeing a Tapu Fini lead. I believe I have a couple of these. Another pretty common fairy lead. Clefable does 2-shot it basically with Meteor Mashes, but the better play I found is to Moonblast first and then Meteor Mash. And that's assuming they no-shield it, obviously. But 2 Meteor Mashes puts it into a pretty awkward range where you need quite a few more fairy wins to KO. So it's easier just to Moonblast first, just in case you get the debuff, and then Meteor Mash them next. And I actually pivoted out after that to lure out a potential something in back that they might be weak to, because they were staying in a neutral lead. So I recognize they might have something in back that doesn't want to see my Clefable. So I bring in the Origin form. We do lure out a Fairy, and again, this is a brutal swing Weezing, and look at how much work we put in with our Giratina on this Fairy type, and they're forced to dump energy. They cannot farm me down. We have gotten them into the red health, and now I'm going to make maybe a little bit of a questionable play. These counters are double resisted, so I don't know that I could have fully farmed down. But I was thinking that if they overheated, they would be tempted to switch out, and that is exactly what happened. So I'm able to get a huge energy lead on my Escav, whereas if I brought my low health Clefable into that Weezing, they probably just let the move go, and then they come in with something and farm down my Clefable, and then that gives them an energy lead going into my Escav. And Escav behind on energy doesn't really like to do that at all. It has a pretty bad time. And here, check out this play, guys. We actually have to go back for a second because I was like kind of stuck in the commentary from the past battle, but we take out their Tapu here. We have some residual energy, and they bring in a Lucario, and I know that I don't have enough energy to get to 2 drill runs before they make a potential Shadow Ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pivot into my Clefable. I want them to get scared and pup me, but I know that I can still live a pup from here. I live it. I make them dump their energy, and on like 1 HP, I click the Moonblast, but I actually undercharge it to a nice, and that's going to allow me to get 2 extra counters. I knew that the Weezing had energy, and I needed extra farm on the Escav. Otherwise, they would have outpaced me, and I believe I outpaced them by 1 fast move to the drill run, and we take another very impressive dub against a Tapu Fini. So another Tapu Fini lead here, and I believe in this one, I do play it how I was saying in the last battle. I Moonblast first, and then I go into the Meteor Mash, assume that they don't shield. I should say assuming that they don't shield. If they start shielding, once the Fairy Winds add up, you can just end up going double Meteor Mash, and you will see that, I believe, in some of these battles, where if they shield the initial Moonblast, then you can just double mash them. But I think, did I get a shield actually here? I did get a shield, and now I think I go double mash in this battle actually, recognizing that I've done so many Fairy Winds that now 2 mashes should just about KO, and as you're going to see, 1 more Fairy Wind, I believe, does KO this Tapu Fini. So we maintain alignment. We have switch advantage. We do still have some energy. What are they going to be bringing into our Clefable here? And it's their own Clefable, guys. So as you see, so many teams just have multiple Pokemon that do not want to see Clefable. And honestly, at this point, I'm thinking that it's probably going to be a Giratina in the back. And it's actually a Sandslash. So I brought the Escav into the Clefable because I knew that they probably had a Giratina, is what I was thinking in the back. And I was going to save my shield for my own Giratina, but they actually just give up switch there. They bait with an Ice Punch for some reason, and then I just throw on CMP to deny their energy. And at this point, I can just easily tank this move, throw my drill run, and then I probably will just hard swap into the Giratina and make the Shadow Ball, and that's going to be all she wrote. As you see, that Moonblast does do a lot of damage on the Escav, but we still can tank it. And it does get a little bit tricky in the 2 shield because after a bunch of Fairy Winds, 2 Moonblasts basically does KO an Escav, which is pretty wild that an Escav could lose to a Fairy type. But we take the dub there. Very good game by the opponent. And in the next battle, we have a Galarian Weezing. And I believe we have at least 2 Galarian Weezing leads because I did see quite a few of them. And this is just a very dominant matchup for Clefable. Even if they're running Sludge, their Sludge is going to do significantly less damage than my super effective Meteor Mash, which is just a very, very good move. Sludge is kind of a crappy move, to be honest. To be honest, I'm not really even sure what energy it is, like what it's a clone of. I just know it's a pretty awful move in general. So we do get a shield. I believe I do actually let the Clefable go, which I normally don't do. Typically, I will give up a shield to try to preserve the Clefable in case I need it in the back, but I think I was feeling a little frisky in this battle, and I decided just to give 2 shields to the Origin form Giratina. I think I was just thinking that maybe if they had like a Giratina or something in back, Giratina Origin up a shield should be just fine. And what is their final Pokemon going to be? I believe it ends up being a Giratina Origin of their own, actually. And they actually bring back in the Weezing, and they try to get to a move, but I commit to the full farm down. And now I'm going to get 2 drill runs off on this Giratina, and that should basically put it into range where I can just Shadow Claw down, because they're very likely not going to shield this, knowing that I have the Giratina Origin of my own. So they had to save the shield for a move on the Giratina, but this is just going to allow me to farm them all the way down. Even if they bait me here, I think the Shadow Claw going through will KO them, and I get the KO there. So very nicely played there. A little bit scary in the endgame. Probably would have been better to try to save my own Clefable and shield that initial move by the Weezing, but either way, we get it done. That was a play rough. I think it was a play rough overheat Weezing, by the way, and you're just going to see, with this thing, it's like a Swiss Army knife. You just never know what you're going to be seeing. Actually, no, the other one was it Brutal Swing? I don't remember. But literally, guys, I saw every combination of movesets. I saw Overheat Play Rough. I saw Overheat Brutal Swing. I saw Play Rough and Sludge. I saw literally every combination. So it's just kind of hard to know when to shield that thing. But the nice thing is no one move KOs Clefable. So I do typically always no shield the first move from the Weezing. There, I think I shielded just because they overfarmed so much. I was expecting the Overheat, but you can easily live it. It just makes more sense to shield the first if they're going for the overheats. But I think that we safe switch into our Escav this time to try to snipe that A-Slash. We did snipe it, but they did get their move off. But we draw out this Giratina Origin, and we saved our Clefable. And at this point, I think I just bring in my own Origin form to sack it, knowing that the Clefable up shields and energy, or with some sort of advantage, can very easily sweep this game because basically the opponent's lead and their closer were fully core broken by the Clefable, and that's just what you're going to find. Like, if they have a Fairy type and a Giratina, which a lot of teams do, Clefable is just going to have such good matchups against a lot of times their whole team. Sometimes Clefable is even core breaking entire team. So the Giratina Origin on my team there, I basically just use it as a meat shield, and we take the win with the shield still in play. So GG to the opponent there. Sorry, I'm getting like, I have these battles going at 2 times speed just because I have a ton of them, and I don't want the video to be like 45 minutes long, and I'm just not able to talk fast enough as these battles are going. I don't know how some of these guys do it. Like Home Slice is just so dang fast in his commentary. But we have a beautiful lead here with the Togekiss. And Togekiss, honestly, is not that common. But if you see anything on the lead with Charm, it is just an absolutely dominant matchup. We throw on good timing. Initially, we threw after 10. And you always want to throw either on 1, 4, 7, or 10. And they pivot into a Reggie after we get both shields and switch. And I'm recognizing they have to be weakened back to my Clefable, or there's no way they would have stayed into that matchup. And sure enough, it is their own Giratina in back with Dragon Breath, which is probably why they didn't switch out. But at this point, Giratina is just going to be a meat shield, and we're going to save it all for the Clefable, I believe, at this point. Or no, I think we just take this out. Yeah, we just take this out with the Moonblast. I actually let myself get very low. I throw the Mash here just because I don't want to let the Reggie come in and get farm. It wasn't really necessary, but as you saw, I mashed, I undercharged it, I let them take me out with 1 HP, and I got a 1 counter head start for their Reggie, and that is a GG. So next battle, we're getting into the Steel-type leads now. We have an A-Slash on the lead, and this is just not that bad, really, guys, because A-Slash does not have a stab fast move, and the Ice Punches and Drill Runs just don't really do that much to the Clefable. And as you're going to see, Meteor Mash, as you did see, Meteor Mash still does a ton of damage. 2 Meteor Mashes actually puts the Sandslash into the red. And there again, we try to snipe. I think actually when earlier I said I tried to snipe the Sandslash, I think I was thinking of this battle. I snipe it there. I do snipe it, but they do make their move. And we get to a Drill Run on this Tapu Fini. And if they try to farm us down, I think we will get to another Drill Run. And we probably will be forcing a shield, which will be nice. And this again is an earlier battle where I was running Mega Horn. Just no reason to run Mega Horn, but since we preserved that Clefable, we can now bring it in, tank this energy. And if they don't Moonblast me here, which they don't, they're going to have to expend all of their energy. And they had an A-Slash lead, and they had a Tapu Fini in the back. So I'm fully expecting them to not have another super strong answer to my Giratina. So I just come in, I'm going to shield up their move. I'm going to commit to the full farm down, and I have so much energy. And you guys knew what was going to be back there, guys. Their own Giratina Altered. Giratina Altered and Tapu Fini are just absolutely everywhere. But with this big of an energy head start, I can very easily make the move here. I believe they are at the back-to-back. I think I'm 1 away from the Ominous Wind, but even if they're at the back-to-back, the Origin Form Giratina will survive this move. We'll get our Ominous Wind off right away, and we'll just farm down the Tapu Fini. Water Guns are not going to be doing that much. And by the way, this is not even that good of an IV of a Giratina. And as you see, I still live that pretty comfortably. I get a boost for the road as well. But yeah, this is just a raid IV Giratina, a 10, 13, 10. So not even anything fancy in terms of IVs. But next battle, Escav lead is really not that bad for Clefable. I typically do like to stay in initially, tank a move, and then depending on if they Acid Spray or Drill Run, I will sometimes stay in, I sometimes switch out. There, since they Acid Sprayed me, I didn't want to tank any more damage after I was double debuffed, so I pivot instantly into the Giratina, and I draw out a Galarian Weezing, and they only threw after 5 there, and that is just a Brutal Swing, so they're probably on Brutal Swing and Overheat, and they over-farm, allowing me to get to another Shadow Ball. So look at this, guys. A Dragon type has just gotten a shield and done massive damage to a fairy type. And that is just how powerful the Giratina is there. So we overfarmed a little bit. Didn't want to risk them getting to an overheat. And what are they going to bring back in? They're going to bring back in the Escav. And what do you think they're going to throw at me? Are they going to acid spray me again? Yes, of course they're going to acid spray me again. They acid spray me. And I believe I do chip first, recognizing they're not quite in drill run range. And now I'm going to bring in my own Escav. And unfortunately, they do have a Giratina in back. But at this point, the Escav is low enough to where I should be able to just save it all for the Clefable. So that's what I'm thinking here. This is CMP to the Shadow Ball. But unfortunately, the opponent actually baits. And by no shielding it, all I do is I just give them a massive, massive farm down. So maybe I should have committed a shield. Maybe it would have been better to commit a shield because they have so much energy now. And I'm going to have to respect this. And the Escav did bank a move before it switched out. So at the time, I still didn't look back to see exactly how much the energy the Escav had. But in my mind, I was thinking that they were going to get to back-to-back moves. So at this point, I was thinking my only win condition was to call the Acid Spray, recognizing I could live in Acid Spray but not a Drill Run. And by Acid Spray baiting me there, they had to commit to the full farm down. They were not going to make 2 more moves, and I actually ended up winning there. So if they had back-to-back Drill Runs, the much safer play would have just been for them to double Drill Run me. But either way, maybe they weren't there. Again, I wasn't really counting, but another Escav lead here in this battle. This one, they actually Drill Run me first, so I'm more than happy to stay in a little bit longer. And now I will bring in the Giratina. You always want to safe switch out of there, just in case they have something in back that your Clefable needs to handle. And typically, if they've got a Steel-type lead, they're going to have something in back that your Clefable is going to need to handle. And it is a Giratina Altered. What a surprising spice pick by the opponent. We get the Shadow Ball. We actually land it too. I think they tried to call the Ominous Wind bait. And I think I can come in and farm them all the way down here, probably. Is that what I do? Yeah, I'm going to come in, tank the move, farm all the way down, and hopefully whatever's in back is going to be something that our Escav can handle. But unfortunately, since they had a Steel-type lead, it's probably going to be like a Tapu Fini, is my guess. And they actually bring back in their own Escav here. So I'm going to throw the Moonblast, and I think I then instantly pivot into my own Escav, and it is a Tapu Fini, guys. And check this out. This is going to be a very, very crazy endgame. So the opponent here is in a very dominant position because they can tank one move, and I cannot tank one move, because if I tank a Surf, I get farmed down. So all they have to do here, even though I'm Acid Spraying them, all they have to do here is, I should say, just stay in. Even though they're quad debuffed, I'm not going to farm them down. All they have to do is just stay in and get to 3 Surfs and win the game. But what I'm recognizing is by double Acid Spraying there, I might scare the opponent into switching out to try to reset that debuff. So they might actually try to bring in their Escav. So I'm going to be very carefully watching for that Escav to come in and making sure I don't throw my energy on this Escav, because my Clefable is only like 1 or 2 Fairy Winds away. And sure enough, they bring in the Escav. I bank the energy on my own Escav there, and I actually come in and farm down their Escav with my Clefable. I live on like 2 HP, get the move up, get the shield, and they had the move banked, but we win CMP. And that, folks, is recognizing your win condition 101. I probably should not have won that game. If the opponent would have played that better, I think they would have won. But a very good game nonetheless. We take the win, and I think, was that a Giratina lead? I can't remember what the lead was. I think it was a Giratina lead. I don't remember the order I had this in, but I actually answer this lead here with the I answer, excuse me, the Registeel switch in with the Giratina instead of the Escav. And the reason for that is, especially if the opponent gets the Zap Cannon debuff on the Escav, the Regi can actually force a shield from you in that matchup. And the Giratina is just so comfortable because even though I think PB Poke is recommending Flash Cannon, most Regis I've noticed are running Zap Cannon and Focus Blast still. So it was more comfortable for me there to bring in the Giratina to the Regi. Also recognizing that if the opponent is safe switching a Regi, they very likely have something that is probably even weaker to counter in the back. And I believe that ends up being an Ace-Slash, if I remember correctly. What was the lead? Was it a Giratina lead? It must have been a Giratina lead. No, it was a Tapu Fini. Was it Tapu? Guys, I have no idea what's happening right now. I think in this battle, I read the team incorrectly. It was actually a Tapu Fini in the endgame. But at this point, I recognized that, oh, it was a Registeel lead. That's what it was. I'm so dumb, guys. I'm still in the steals. There's literally like 20 battles in this video. We are still in the steal. So it was a Registeel lead. I brought in the Giratina, and the opponent didn't bring anything in because they did not have a good answer to our Giratina. As you're seeing, they had a Tapu Fini and a Giratina of their own in back, so they couldn't bring in their own Giratina, and they couldn't really bring in their Tapu Fini because in the 2-shield, as you guys have seen, the Giratina just does very, very well into that matchup. So after getting that shield on the Escav there onto the Tapu Fini, I had a 2-0 shield advantage, so I was more than happy just to save the shields for the Clefable, recognizing that the Clefable could take out the Reggie since it was still low. So, wow, horrible commentary on that battle. I literally had no idea what was happening the whole time. But as you see, Registeel leads are in fact beatable, and I only saw like 2 or 3 of them anyway. So what I was thinking that was happening is if a Registeel comes into your Clefable lead, you should actually bring in the Giratina instead of the Escavalier, because Giratina has a much more comfortable matchup there than whereas the Escav, you actually usually have to give up a shield. So in that battle, the opponent surrenders because they tried to bait, and as Jamie Fid would say, they really need to work on their masturbating habit. So next battle, another Giratina Ultra lead here, as I'm still recovering from not literally paying attention to an entire full battle. The opponent again tries to catch. Guys, I had so many moves caught on steel types, because one very, very common, just like kind of different variations of the same line was Giratina Altered Double Steel, and there was anything from a Registeel, Melmetal, there was tons of Excadrills, Escavs, a whole bunch of different variations of like multiple steel types in the back with a Giratina lead, and oftentimes they were catching my dang Moonblasts onto their steel types, but it just truly does not matter because this team is so dominant against Giratina Double Steel that even with the catches, it just does not matter. This time it was actually Giratina Steel Fairy, but I saw so many Giratina Double Steels as well, and as I mentioned before, the Tapu Fini and the 2-shield with the Giratina is just so dominant for the Giratina. At this point, even if I get baited, which they actually don't bait, shockingly, I'm just, like, honestly, I'd rather be the Giratina Origin and the Tapu Fini matchup. Unless it's all shields down, I definitely would rather be the Giratina Origin for sure. We take it out, we still have the shield, and we're just going to Moonblast their own Giratina. We definitely are going to see Giratina Double Steel. I know I put it in here a bunch, but typically when you see a Steel safe switch, you could almost guarantee that there's going to be another Steel in back, and I believe this is Giratina Double Steel. I truly don't know, guys. Yeah, this is the one where they catch my Moonblast onto the Melmetal, and that's fine. Like, good for them, they caught the Moonblast, which is annoying, but like, I have such a dominant answer, and like I was saying in the intro, Escavalier has a pretty comfortable matchup against all of the steel types. Now, obviously the Reggie matchup can get a little awkward if they have an energy advantage and they get a Zap Cannon debuff, but you still can tank one move and not be in farm down range, so Melmetal easily taken out there. They come back with the Giratina, and I should still make a drill run here. And that drill run is going to be very important because it's going to put this Giratina in range where a Moonblast will one-shot, because Moonblast doesn't quite one-shot a Giratina from full health, and they have a Tapu Fini. Literally, as I'm saying, like, oh yeah, so many Giratina Double Steels. We have literally seen Giratina steal Tapu Fini like at least 3 times now. So just completely ignore my commentary, guys. Maybe you can just mute your mute your audio and just watch the battles for yourself, rather than having me try to tell you what's happening. But either way, doesn't really matter if there's a second steel type or if there is a Tapu Fini, because Giratina Origin, once the Escav takes care of their steel safe switch, the Giratina Origin just absolutely feasts on the backline. As you see, we actually 2-shield flex on that opponent. They tried to bait us multiple times, and we were just not having any of that, and that is a GG. So maybe this is the last Giratina Altered lead, or maybe that, yeah, this is the last Giratina Altered lead. Please beat Giratina Double Steel. Don't prove me to be a full liar here, folks. And they have a Lucario here, and I am going to chip first. I probably will get a shield here. I do get a shield, and this is kind of an awkward situation where if they bait me, they probably will one-shot me with a Shadow Ball, so I call it, and it is a power-up punch in there. I don't throw the drill run, recognizing I would lose CMP. Very nice attempt there by the opponent to catch me in CMP, but I don't fall for it. I overfarm, and we're going to make 2 moves on this Giratina, and I swear if there is not a steel type in the back, I'm just going to straight stop this recording and walk away, like how Rise will just leave the building occasionally in his videos when something crazy happens. He just walks out and shuts the door. I'm literally going to do that, guys, if there's not another steel type in the back. So we have alignment still. We've got even shields. Clefable is coming back into this Giratina, and thank God there is an Escav in the back. It was Giratina Double Steel, and we take it out. Actually, they just quit the game, but yeah, that game was over for them, unfortunately. A couple Giratina Origins coming at you now. I did actually see this I wouldn't say as often as the altered, but it was around, and it's a pretty safe bait because unlike the altered form, the origin form cannot live a Moonblast, whereas altered does live it, and it's a pretty awkward Fairy Wind farm down. So I do bait, and I need to be mindful of the catch, guys. It was just so obvious that they're going to catch, but once again, I am playing like a potato, and I do unfortunately get my move caught. Now there, I wasn't sure if I won CMP. I could have thrown on CMP there, but I decided to just play it safe and farm down. I wasn't sure. I think I looked it up later on, and I think Escav actually does win CMP there, but the safer play was just to tank the move, commit to the farm down, and come out of here with a lot of energy. And they actually bring in their own Escavalier. So this was actually Giratina Origin double steal, so maybe I'm not fully crazy. Maybe there are some more double steal backlines here, but this is just such a dominant situation. At this point, I can come in and just basically use my Clefable as a damage sponge. They actually undercharge it as well. Very nice play by them to undercharge it. They get 4 extra Shadow Claws, which is a little bit scary, actually, that they got that much farm, but I'm recognizing that they're not making 3 moves, even if they double Ominous Wind. Excuse me. So here what I'm going to do is just double shield, farm all the way down, and then double move their Escav in the back end. They actually make a nice play here. They call the bait, but I recognize even if they called it, I could just farm them down afterwards, and that's exactly what happened. So, sorry guys, I'm struggling quite a bit today. The allergens are out in full force. I try not to sniffle and cough through every video, but it happens. And I think we have 2 more wins, and I ended the video with a couple losses as well. Just so nobody can say I don't show losses. I do show losses. I lost plenty of games with this team, but I did actually have all positive sets. I don't know if I said in the intro or not, but I had all positive sets of this team, and Haxorus lead is just so good. In this battle, as you see, I was blabbing about it earlier on. If they bring in a Registeel to your Clefable, bring in your Giratina Origin. This is the battle I was probably talking about when I was incorrectly commentating on it later on, but this is just so dominant. I only saw, I think, maybe 2 Flash Cannon Regis, and I can easily just match shields, maintain alignment, and my Clefable will still be aligned to that Haxorus, and I still have some energy, and I don't think that they could really counter me down, so they're going to be forced to throw as well, which is even better. I'll bring in the Clefable here, and it's probably going to be another Steel type in the back, and it is an Alolan Sandslash, and we just had this opponent RPS'd, but it actually would have been... The fact that I brought in the Giratina to the Regi there was actually very important, because if I actually would have brought the Escav into the Regi, then the Giratina Origin would have gotten destroyed by that Alolan Sandslash in the back. So that is why if you see the Regi, definitely want to bring in your Giratina Origin, because they may have an A-Slash in the back, and they just realize it was over there, they surrender. And I believe we have 1 more win, and then we're going to be taking a look at some crazy losses in the end game. So Shadow Flygon is a very cool pick. This thing is actually incredibly terrifying because a Shadow Earth Power would do so much damage to Clefable. Even though Clefable is bulky, we would live it, but a Shadow Earth Power would do a lot. And they actually built up to an Earthquake as well, so I definitely shielded that. And they get the Defense debuff as well. So now I'm going to be forced to double shield, and this is just looking pretty rough. I do Meteor Mash. At this point, I'm figuring they probably are just about in Meteor Mash range, and they are, and Meteor Mash is a really good move as well. And I pivot there, I bank the Moonblast, I pivot because I was figuring if the opponent had a Dragon lead and they were staying in, they very well could be weakened back to the Clefable, and sure enough, they have a Giratina Origin, and they still have a shield, but they actually decide to call the bait there. I think they realized I had a Moonblast, so they were just really hoping that I baited there, but I was not baiting, and at this point, we can just go straight Ominous Wind, and we still have our own full health Escav in the back, and this is going to be a GG. Really cool spikes by the opponent, but unfortunately, again, they were core broken by the Clefable, and we can just land this Moonblast, bring in the Escav, counter them down, and that is going to be all she wrote for the wins, I believe. And the 2 losses I included, guys, honestly, most of the losses I had were just straight up RPS, like Regi lead, I bring in the Giratina Origin, they bring in a Charmer, so like it did happen a couple times, but honestly, I lost like 4 or 5 battles purely due to lag. Now, they catch my Moonblast here onto the Tapu Fini after a great lead, and here, it's going to be 10, basically 10 Shadow Claws for them to get to their Moonblast. So I throw after 10, which is CMP tied to their Moonblast, 20 turns to a Moonblast, and the game lags. And they do shield it, but check it out, I'm lagging. I want to shield this. All I have to do is match shields, farm down. I click the shield, and I'm still lagging. I have no idea what's happening. Did I shield? Did I not shield? And apparently I didn't shield. The Tapu Fini takes me out, and they got a ton of free energy on my Escav while I was lagging. And now I don't have alignment. My Escav is super low, and they have their own Escav in back. And now Clefable just has way too much work to do, unfortunately. And yeah, this is just so frustrating, guys. And they still have their Tapu Fini alive in the back as well. And really, I would have had this game probably in the bag based on their team comp, because if my Giratina Origin comfortably takes out the Tapu Fini, I've got a shield advantage or a ton of extra energy on my Clefable, and I just sweep the game with Clefable. But unfortunately, because of that lag, I am going to lose this game, I believe. I think I just played it out just in case, but as you're going to see, my Pokemon are just way too low, and their Giratina is just far, far too healthy. If for some reason they would have shielded this, I could have Moonblasted them, but they're way too smart. They're not going to shield that, and yeah, I lost like 2 or 3 battles due to lag, guys, and I don't usually lag that much, but I've noticed the game has been functioning very poorly lately, and in this next battle, we have a pretty decent lead. It's nice to see the Tapu Fini on the lead. That way our backline doesn't have to see it, but again, we don't really care to see it. Like, we don't mind seeing it with the Origin, but we're going to play it out here. We do Meteor Mash bait them for some reason. Usually, like I said, it's better to go Moonblast and then Meteor Mash, but either way, we recognize that another Meteor Mash is not going to KO, so we Moonblast, we take them out. We're looking pretty good here. They have an Excadrill. I pivot into the Giratina, and I lure out their own Giratina, and that is exactly why I safe switched there, because if I would have just stayed in and let their Excadrill take out my Clefable, then my backline would have had a tough time taking out this Giratina, but we're able to draw out the Giratina, and now all we have to do is just let this go. We can KO the Giratina with our Clefable, align the Escav to the Excadrill, and that should be a GG, but check this out, guys. Check this out. I was too slow on the pause there, but check this out. I actually clicked on my... I clicked on the Clefable there, and for some reason, just look at like 1 second, I click the Clefable. This happened to me like 3 times, guys. I click the Pokemon right at the last second to wait out the full timer, and it brings in the opposite Pokemon. So I'm waiting it out. All I have to do is bring in the Clefable. I click it, and it brings in the Escavalier. And basically that is going to cost me this game, because now my Escav is aligned to this very healthy Giratina. I bring in the Clefable, but they just bring in the Excadrill, and I just lose because the game does not work sometimes for some reason. I'm sorry to just sit here and complain, but I'm sure you guys have noticed it too. The game is just so bad right now. The mechanics are way off. I keep getting the one-turn bring-in, and the one-turn bring-in has cost me a couple of wins as well, and it's just a frustrating way. Like, I truly don't mind losing. If I get outplayed by the opponent, you know, absolutely, I deserve to lose that, but if I lose a game I definitely would have won due to some stupid broken game mechanic, like, come on, Niantic, guys, this game is 7 years old. I've been playing this game since 2016, and it still does not work. Like, they're a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company probably, and they can't even fix their dang game. But anyway, rant over. The battles are over. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope nobody's mashing their unsubscribe button because I'm complaining about the game, but I know you guys have all experienced the lag at least a little bit. So that being said, guys, if you want to check me out on Discord, make sure you head over there. If you want to send me in battles, the form is in the description, and my top wins of the month form is also in the description. So make sure you guys start getting me those in as we are getting closer to the end of August here. And that being said, thank you so much again to everyone who watched. And if you're not subscribed, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.